Okay, well, good evening and welcome to tonight's Science in Stoke webinar. Tonight is the first Science in Stoke webinar of the series, uh, really supporting the Giddy Up Challenge. Now, pretty much everybody on the webinar live has signed up for the Giddy Up Challenge, but some of you might be watching this online and considering joining up to the Giddy Up. The reality is the Giddy Up Challenge is a fundraiser. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. We're going to be fundraising and raising some funds for land access rights. But really, it's an Everest challenge. Now, you don't have to do the full Everest. There can be full, a three-quarter, a half, and a quarter. But in reality, it's a climbing challenge. So we're going to go over all that. We're going to go over what it is a little bit tonight and how to get you started with your new training plan. So one of the important things I want to do tonight, I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask their questions. I know you're new to the program, you signed up, you have a training plan, you might have a new TrainingPeaks account and everything. You have a lot of questions. Feel free to ask questions tonight as I go through the presentation. Now, what I'll do, I actually have another screen over here, and there are times where I'll be looking over here. I'm not being rude to you, but I'm reading questions. Feel free to ask as we go, because I'll either blend them into the presentation or I'll stop and ask them, or I'll stop and answer them specifically because they're, a really good question or very timely. What I hate to do is like 45 minutes later in a presentation, right? You come back and it's like, what was that question? Go ahead and ask as we go. I'll try to tackle them as we go. If I ignore your question, that's because I know the answer is coming. So just sit tight if I don't answer your specific question. All right, a little bit about who I am for those who don't know me. My name is Tim Cusick. I'm a longtime coach. I'm the head coach and founder here at Basecamp. I have been coaching for over 10, maybe 15 years now, probably more than 15, unfortunately. I am a USAC certified coach, and I have the luxury of working with a lot of professional athletes, Olympians, world champions. I do have a world championship jersey. I do have 20 or 30 national championship jerseys that I've coached to, most of those at the professional level. I also have the pleasure of being Rebecca's coach. So that's how she roped me into this great partnership program where Rebecca is the queen of Stoke and really getting people motivated to get out there and do cool stuff. My job is to kind of get you trained up, teach you a little bit about the science behind what we're doing, and help you really perform in the big challenge. Rebecca's job, she's going to keep you motivated and rolling and give you a lot of information about how to go out there with the right equipment, the right mental tools, the right setup for success. One of the things that I really enjoy being engaged on is it's such a great cause. I know last year it was the first year I participated in the Giddy Up Challenge. Rebecca and the team raised over 130,000. I can't remember the exact total, but over $130,000. Back then it was for COVID relief formats. The reality is this year we're doing land access, and we have different beneficiaries that are going to be getting our funds. I know Rebecca's going to be going into this deeply over the next 8 weeks, so I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to say how stoked I am to be participating to raising funds for such a great cause and for such great groups. Okay, let's talk about the training leaders. As I said, I've introduced myself, so you know who I am. I'm the science. Rebecca's going to be partnering with me in the future Science and Stoke presentations. Rebecca and I will be working together. We do a pretty good show together. We've done a lot of webinars and stuff. We'll be working, and teaching you. I'll take care of the science. She'll take care of the Stoke. But in reality, Rebecca right now cannot join us tonight because she is trekking across Iceland, probably in some sideways rain, hail type of stuff. And, freezing temperatures, some other great challenge in the dark. I know she's out there having fun and doing her stuff, but she wanted me to pass along her welcome. So she filmed a little video just before she launched off on her cross Iceland trek. So I'm going to attempt to let this play and let's see if the sound and everything works for everybody. So I'm just going to be quiet in the background here and let you listen. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Rusch. Welcome to the second annual Giddy Up Challenge. Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to be your teammate and be on this training and ride journey, run journey with you for this year, for 2021. Just so you know, the Giddy Up Challenge was launched last year in response to, the challenging year that we're all having. And I needed something to be motivated for. And I also wanted to ride with a purpose. I wanted to do something about the situation we were in 2020. So the Giddy Up Challenge last year fundraised through the Be Good Foundation for COVID relief. And we had people from 11 countries all over the world taking part. And it was an amazing experience. So we kept it, we brought it together again, and this is the second annual Giddy Up Challenge. Also, just like last year, it is a Be Good Foundation fundraiser. And this year, our focus for fundraising really is on with all these people finding the outdoors and getting outside, some for the first time, finding your own backyard. We are fundraising for open spaces and protection of the lands where we love to run and ride and play, really protecting our outdoor playgrounds. So just by taking part in this, you are helping make sure that people have access and we protect the places like this where we love to run and ride and play. So thank you for that part. You're not only going to challenge yourself, I promise you, in this Giddy Up Challenge, but you're also going to be riding with a purpose to have more bikes on foot, more spaces accessible and open and protected out in the wilderness for us. So sorry I can't be there tonight. This is the very first Science and Stoke webinar. And the goal of these webinars are to bring you along on a journey. So I want to let you know, no matter where you're executing your ride around the world, we're doing this as a team. And so these Science and Stoke webinars are hosted by myself and my coach, Tim Cusick. And really, he provides the science. He's got a ton of education and training world-class athletes all around the world. And so he brings in that kind of knowledge of training. And then I bring in the Stoke and I bring in my knowledge from decades of being a professional athlete. And so our goal is to really empower you, inspire you, and give you all the tools that you need to really execute an amazing challenge. And like I said, we're teammates, so we're on this journey with you. So this first webinar, Tim is really gonna go through kind of some of the nuts and bolts of like, how do I plan my route? How do I pick the right hill? What kind of pace should I do? What kind of elevation should I look for? How long of a hill? So don't worry if you've never done a hill climbing challenge before. We're gonna take you through that. I'm not there today because I'm actually in Iceland. That's what you can see in the background here. So by the time you are watching this, I'm going to be riding my bike from north to south across the Highlands route in the middle of winter in Iceland. And I'm sorry I can't be with you, but I'm pretty excited for this adventure. And people always ask me why I go do these hard things, why I push myself. Some of your friends might ask you, why did you sign up for the Giddy Up Challenge? What's that all about? Well, I go do these things to push myself and to ride in beautiful places, but I also do it to bring you along on the journey. So like I said, we are teammates. I spend a lot of time on my bike alone, but I'm never disconnected from my ride community. And that's really what Giddy Up is about. We're connecting community, we're celebrating beautiful places, and we're motivating each other. So we're in this together. I hope you're gonna be cheering for me while I'm in Iceland. I'll be thinking about you. And the training starts now. So one of the keys to really making a successful Giddy Up challenge is to really engage. You've got 8 weeks until the ride day, the run day, until your challenge day, but don't waste a moment of that. I can tell you from firsthand experience, the more prepared you are, the more fun you're gonna have. So come along on this journey, take the training seriously, do the preparation, get on the website, absorb some of the knowledge and education that we're putting there, and connect with us. And so, I don't know, it's so pretty here. I don't even know what else to say. This is the first day it hasn't been snowing that I've been here. I'm hoping for this kind of weather for our crossing, but I want you to know that you guys are fueling me as I'm gonna be out there riding. I'm thinking about you, starting your training program, getting stoked, getting excited, And there's nothing more motivating for me than knowing that we've got a team and we're all working together. So I commend you for challenging yourself, signing up for something hard that's maybe outside your comfort zone. I guarantee there is an amazing win at the end of this process that we're going to go through together. So I'm really happy you're here. Coach Tim is going to give you a bunch of cool science tonight and really help you along. And remember, we're teammates. We're in the Giddy Up Challenge together. And no matter what distance or elevation you're doing, whether you're ride, run, I'm just happy to be here together with you and be on your team. And I can't wait to see what happens, see how your training's going. I will be with you absolutely on the second Science in Stoke. If I'm not done with Iceland by then there's a problem. So yeah, I'll see you on number 2. And thank you so much for joining us. Be good.
Great message. Great welcome from Rebecca. Wow. And she's on such an exciting adventure. And I know she is very motivated knowing that this is kicking off and you're all part of it. All right, let's start getting into the nuts and bolts and the education of it. We are going to be doing, in support of your 8-week training plan and in support of your actual execution of a Giddy Up, we're going to be doing 3 Science and Stoke sessions. Science and Stoke number 1, which we're doing tonight, is going to be about preparing for that. And I'm going to give you the foundational elements to learn how to access and utilize your training plan and how to design your Everest challenge. But by Science and Stoke number 2, here's where we're really getting into the organizing. Rebecca and I are going to walk you through setting up your challenge, your base camp, your equipment, the tools that you're going to need to bring for success. I'm going to give you a little bit of tips and tricks, how to kind of hack your performance a little bit and get the most out of your physiology, get the most out of your training. And then finally, in the third session, we're really going to give you the nuts and bolts execution. And the way we do it in the third section is Rebecca and I will walk you through Rebecca's setup. So we'll use her as a straw woman setup to really walk you through the process. Tonight, though, we're going to be focusing on preparing, and that does mean a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of things. We're going to get a little bit more into the process of getting started. Let's start out really by designing your challenge. So Everesting, as you know, is a pretty big challenge. It's over 29,000 feet of climbing and growing. And it really is, and it needs to be completed within a certain time range, within a certain process. In reality, right, it's probably one of the hardest things any of us have ever done. I know for me, I did it last year. It was the first time I've ever Everested. I had a pretty high goal and I was able to accomplish that. But I got to tell you, I've done a lot of events and everything was hard. Now, even if you've chosen the 3/4, the half, or the quarter, it's a lot of work, right? And you need to be prepared. But the first thing we need to go through is we need to talk about what your specific challenge is going to look like, because the more you are familiar with it, the more you've kind of planned it, rehearsed it, tested your ride and tested your materials, and equipment over the next 8 weeks, the better you'll be prepared. But to do that, I'm going to walk you through a process of designing your challenge, which should make it a whole lot easier. Now, in my online education format, I like to take a tell, show, do process. So I'm going to take you through some steps. I'm just going to show you a slide with like step 1, step 2, step 3, but I'm going to go kind of fast, but don't panic because I'm going to actually then jump online onto my browser and I'm going to demo the steps for you. And I'm going to build a challenge right here on screen so that you get familiar with it. So first, let's do the tell. Let's start with some steps. So steps 1, and the easiest way to identify your challenge is to just log on to good old Strava, go to the Explore segment, and Segment Explorer is the top option. Look at your local map. You might need to zoom in or zoom out. It depends what you define local and if you have a hill or not, or maybe you're traveling to an area, you want to look at that area and look to see some of the climbs. I live in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I've got some climbs here and I've got some really good climbs here. So I'm looking at climbs that I sort of know. I might not do them every day, but I want to make sure I kind of know them. And in Segment Explore, have the ability to see them on a map. And again, I'm going to demo this in a moment. Once I pick one, I select one of these challenges by clicking on it. I want to copy that URL. Now, this process I'm going to show you, you can do 100 times if you really want. I would highly recommend you look at 3 or 4 or 5 different climbs, and you'll see why after I do my demo. Once you've copied that URL, we're going to head over to Everesting CC. We're going to simply paste the URL and calculate. And it's going to give us a very handy dashboard for figuring out our Everesting attempt. And you can set if it's a full Everest or not. I'm going to demo a full Everest, but you'll see once you get into this program, clicking around, it's very easy to understand. So then we're going to enter some data. We're going to enter some target data. We're going to figure out some climb speed and descend speed and make a rough estimate of how many rest stops we're going to have. And we're going to get the idea of, what our Everest, how long it should take us. Then when we build one, we're going to save it. I'm going to teach you how to save it. And then we can build more because you want to look at different segments, right? Once you get the ability to play with the time ranges and stuff like that, I'm going to give you some advice on that after the demo. You're going to want to look at 3 or 4 ones that might best suit your needs. So let's actually demo it. It's so much easier. Oops, head there. Let's actually demo it because it's so much easier in the demo reality. So the first thing you want to do is head over to Strava. You don't necessarily have to do this with Strava. There's some other ways with Ride with GPS can actually work too. But Strava tends to be the easiest. Most of us have a Strava free account. Some people have premium accounts. Like I said, this is just the natural zoom. I haven't zoomed in at all. But I'm going to go ahead and I can see the bigger climbs here, right? This is a climbing time trial. This is a steeper climb. I just happen to know them because I've ridden them, right? I'm going to click on this one and use it as an example. If I click on the little orange E, it shows me some summary details and it absolutely tells me I am not the KOM. So I'm going to view the details. So just click on view the details. It opens another tab and it brings me to the details of this. Now here's a cool little trick, right? I can go back and see my efforts in Strava. And what I'm going to do down here in the leaderboard, I'm just going to click my results. And that's the number of times I've done it. And it's a pretty big range. And the slowest I've ever done it is 7.2 miles an hour. So remember that number, right? I'm going to remember that number, 7.2 miles an hour. Now I'm going to copy that. Then I'm going to go to Everesting CC, everesting.cc, not .com, .cc. This is their homepage. All you need to do is paste that URL right here and hit calculate. It'll take a second to calculate. Hit calculate. And then you scroll down and you will see it's begun to build your Everesting attempt. I'm looking for a full Everest. You can calculate a base camp, which is halfway, or just a 10K club climb to get you kind of close. I'm going to do imperial units, and I want to use sliders on my inputs because I find it to be a little bit easier. So on this climb, it's going to take me 29.9 laps. That's actually perfect, right? Because I can say 30 in my head to make sure I get there. And it tells me each lap distance, the total miles I'll have to cover is 135 miles, 970 feet a lap. And it can give me some average gradient of 8.1. There's a little bit of gain on the descent. And a gain on a descent is, think about it, you're going downhill and maybe there's a little saddle and then a downhill again. That in our rules does count, so you don't need to remove that. But it'll tell you if you pick up a little more. This climb, 3 feet, not really is the answer. As a matter of fact, knowing the climb, I'm not even sure where they found 3 feet. But now I want to look at setting up my climbing speed. Remember, step 3 was enter and targets and edit. And that's what I'm going to do using sliders. My slowest speed was 7 miles an hour. And I knew from that power output that was pretty light. So I'm going to say I'm going to be able to climb this 30 times at 7 miles an hour. I'm just going to start there. It might become 6 miles an hour, right? As a matter of fact, let's say 6. Let's be safe. And that's the coolness of this. Excuse me. And you guys need to go in with the program. Once you get your Strava segment in here, you can move around and really start thinking and using the stuff that you know about you to make good decisions, make good planning. Now I'm going to descend. This is actually a tougher descent. I would not use this climb for an Everest because the descent is too tricky. And maybe at best, I'm going to average maybe 28 miles an hour. It's got 3 switchbacks on it, all of which are super sketchy. So in reality, I'm not going to have that much descending speed. So that makes a pretty long day, right? But I haven't put in my rest stops. I'm actually probably going to take 15-minute rep stops in my planning, and I'm just going to take 5. And I might take them, and this is again why you can play with the sliders, right? And figure out your stuff. So that's going to take me 22 and a half hours to accomplish that. So that's cutting it a little tight, but that's what I have, right? If I use that climb. Now I can estimate my bike gear. My bike is probably going to be about 18 pounds. We estimate my weight at about 150 pounds. I'll leave it 149, make myself feel good. And it actually is going to tell me my average power I need on each climb. Already, for me, that's pretty sustainable. So probably isn't a bad target. Probably do more. But it also gives me my kilojoules burned per lap and my total kilojoules. So a kilojoule is a amount of energy. Um, and it's actually a kilocalorie or a calorie. So in Science and Stoke #2, when we begin to talk about nutrition and fueling for the event, knowing exactly how many kilocalories or kilojoules you're going to burn each lap and overall is going to be what we're going to use to drive our nutrition target. You can keep playing with the sliders. Once you have it as something you think, let's go ahead and click save. I'm not going to do it because I already have 2 copies saved here, as you can see. And then it will save in your list here. Then go back and build, like find at least 3 climbs and play with the sliders, look at your performances, and suddenly, right, what happens, this big challenging planning event. Everest is hard to plan for. That's not so hard anymore. It's not so intimidating. And I could find out, well, what if I did do that at 7 miles an hour? Now I'm under 20 hours. So maybe that's it. What if I could descend a little faster and average 35? Well, I'm sorry, my hours. I've been saying the climb time here. So, that, reality is that's a lot of 19 minutes of climb. I said that incorrectly earlier. My total time is 12 hours. That's brutal. My goal this year, I'll tell you right now, is to break 12 hours. So it's going to be brutal one way or another. So it is what it is. So that really is an excellent way. So to just recap, remember, we start with Strava Explore, explore around, find the one that you want to test. And again, you can do it multiple times. Head on over to everesting.cc, paste the URL, and start playing. The thing I see people all the time, they get intimidated by like online programs like that, and they're just afraid to move the sliders. Just push buttons, bang away. When you get it right, save it, right? And then go do another. And I think you'll learn a tremendous amount about what might be faster. I'm going to give you some recommendations here in a minute, but I think it'll really help you accomplish that. So pretty good overlay of how to do it. I'm tracking questions. Most of the questions so far are in training, so hopefully everybody followed that pretty simply. But that should be a pretty live demo, pretty easy demo to follow. And again, it's like, I might not remember what Tim said. Should I do this? Just get in there, just copy the URL, paste it, and start banging away on buttons. It works really well. You're not going to break it, I promise, and you will be able to find a whole lot of options. Now, as you think about your Everest, and I highly recommend you plan it now. Like, maybe you narrow it down to your 2 climbs, like I'm going to do one of these 2, maybe even 3, but you should have your planning in your head now because it's going to affect your prep, how you go into your training. It's going to also have you better prepared for Science and Stoke #2, where Rebecca and I will be talking you through how to set up that course and really get ready for success. So here's some key tips. I have to admit, like all good knowledge, I stole this from 2 different articles and kind of compiled it because I thought it was really good points. I probably should have kindly given recommendations to the articles, but meant to do that and I didn't. So I'm sorry I stole it, but at least I'm an honest thief. Um, First off, choose something close to home. I've seen a lot of people travel hours to have the perfect Everesting climb, and that just adds stress for already long and challenging. Stay close to home, right? It's just so much easier. On your climb, do more straight climbs. People who have climbs that have a lot of switchbacks and stuff like that, they get in a lot of trouble of changing grade. They get in trouble of descending. Like the one climb I was showing you there in my example has, like I said, 3 big switchbacks in it. Really slows down the descent. It also throws off the elevation gain. Garmin's and GPS units and things like that aren't great at switchbacks. So your Garmin might say you have 33,000 feet, and you got to remember to do your 29.9 laps. So something straight is better. Constant grades are better. A lot of grade fluctuation creates some additional fatigue because it'll force you to recruit more muscle than you want. So you want more of a constant grade. Um, you also want to do something, sorry about that. You also want to do things um, where you spend your effort going up. One of the mistakes I often see in people designing their course is they're like, oh, well, I'll do better if my grade is only like an average of 3%. But watch what happens when you do that on your Everest planner. You're going to have to cover 200 miles at 3%. It's more like 220 miles at 3% to be able to accomplish your Everest. So you don't want to waste all your energy just generating non-productive miles. I recommend most people here should be targeted between 5 and 8% as their average grade. I could have put that on here. Make sure you write that down. 5 to 8%. You should be able to do most of that seated. You want a good road service. Mobile cell phone reception is so crucial, but yet people forget to think about that a fair amount of times. So make sure your mobile works. The prevailing tailwinds, that's a great trick. So remember my map, if I do the hill, I have better climbs in the south, but it's always then climbing into a headwind. So I'm so tempted to do the climbs to the north of me because I get a little tailwind. You want low traffic, right? That's such crucial. Finding a nice gravel road for those who are doing it in gravel, always a great answer. Mountain bike, always a great answer. If you're on the road, find low traffic. Also, and this is something people don't think about, but I know Rebecca really stresses it, and it's super correct. You really need a great base camp. There needs to be a really good pull off, a place where you can park a car and have a little table set up. And if somebody supporting, or you have a small group of people, doing it in a small group is something I recommend. If you haven't recruited your friends to do this with you, you should be doing that right now, because nothing's more fun than really painful events with your friends. So recruit 4 or 5 of your friends, set up a really good base camp at the bottom, and also make sure you're close to amenities. I know a group of my friends did it last year here locally after the Giddy Up actually. And they did it literally from a little general store parking lot. And it was just great to have that because they ended up forgetting some things and have it ready. Overall, in the end of the day, most people will do their Everest on a road bike or a gravel, and some people will do it on a mountain bike. Road and gravel obviously just give you a faster approach, so it makes it a little easier, but doing it on a mountain bike is actually pretty good too. You tend to have better gear ratio and a little better control over the effort, but you got to watch your timing and be able to get it right. So it really is up to you. I would say 50% of the people do it on the road, 30 to 40 on gravel, and the rest on mountain bike. Now, one thing I didn't put in here, some people will be doing it indoors. There is, if you go to ZwiftInsider.com, there's 3 or 4 well timed out estimates. If I was to do it on indoors, I would do it on the Alpe d'Huez. It's steep and long enough, or Alpe d'Huez. It's steep and long enough to get you there pretty fast. So I would do Alpe d'Huez. Okay. Hopefully and I think I answered all the questions. I was sneaking them in there if you couldn't tell, but I think I got everybody's question on designing your Everest challenge. And again, I really encourage you, do it after tonight's session, do it tomorrow sometime, start playing in there. If you get locked and loaded, both mentally and physically, you'll be more prepared. Like I've got mine down to 2 different climbs. I'm going to make the decision here very shortly. So I know every day when I'm training, that's the climb I'm going for. That's what I'm looking at. That's important to me. Okay, let's talk about training now, getting started with training. I'm going to do the same process, tell, show, do. So I'm going to go through the steps pretty quickly. Um, I'm going to, one good design question just came in. So Kim, that's a really good question. Kim asked the question, given all the tips, do you have a suggestion for length of miles? To me, the perfect range of miles. So when you're playing out with your Everesting CC, um, when you're playing out with that Everesting CC, 125 to 150 miles is a pretty good number to have in total distance. 125. Once you start going over 150 miles, you're just spending a lot more time actually on the bike and spending time moving the bike forward, but not necessarily up. So I would target 125 to 150. So this climb would fit nicely within that. Great question, Kim. Okay, so let's talk about training. And I do see all the training questions coming in. I'm going to uh, hopefully get to them here in this question series. I'm just cheat sometimes and have to read them all. All right, so let's talk about getting started with training. Tell, show, do. So overarching in training, right, there's this principle of training. And in the second and third webinar and in some of the little videos I'll put out at times in the training support page, I will give you some of the physiology of behind things. But basically all training starts with focus on the said principle, specific adaptation to imposed demands. If we want to get better at something, we need to practice that something, and it needs to be specific. So in its most layman terms, I've been doing this for a long time, 15 years of coaching. I've coached some of the best pros in the world in all different sports. And I will tell you, when I watch the world think about training, we tend to overcomplicate. We look for these secret answers, and if I could just have that super secret thing, then I'll be 10% faster. What really makes great training is what's on the left and what's on the right, right? On the left is the said principle. If you want to get better at something, you have to practice it. On the right is you actually practicing it. You got to do the work, right? If you bring those two things together, you're 95% of the way there. And then we can talk about all the little things and the magic and the secret training and all those things that happen. But if you really want success, it really is simply that specific adaptation we're going to target and then doing the work. Put those two together, you'll have success. So in its simplest format, we really have 4 things we want to worry about in a Everest attempt. We need to be good at climbing and extended tempo efforts, because most grades, if you're going up a grade between 5 and 8%, will put you in the training zone that is typically known, or the effort zone, which is typically known as tempo. And that's higher than endurance, but it's still below threshold. And that tends to be a high muscular load effort. You're not going to be dancing on the pedals at 95 RPM. You're probably going to be grinding a little more at 75 to 80. So we need a lot of tempo, and we need to get used to doing that uphill. So the training produces a lot of demands for extending your ability to maintain tempo. So somebody might say, hey, Tim, why aren't we doing like super short, hard intervals so that I can get faster at my 1 minute sprint? Because that 1 minute sprint will not help you in your Everest challenge, right? We need a little of that. We're going to do some sprints and stuff just to keep that system sharp, to maintain it. But we're really going to focus on what I call, when you're talking about intensive aerobic development. We want to improve not only your cardiovascular system, the air that you're getting in and utilize, but we also want to improve your metabolic ability to build energy at a blended ratio of aerobic and anaerobic. And I'll get more into that in the second Science and Stoke webinar. Then later on, we're going to teach you about how to better improve your nutrition and the performance. Most people fail at an Everest when they fatigue out, let's say it's not equipment, because their nutrition is wrong. You've done the work, the nutrition will be what will get you there. And we're going to teach you how to do that. And you need to be prepared for the environment. We have Rebecca will walk us through that. You probably couldn't have a better expert. Okay. That being said, let's talk about your training. Same thing, tell, show, do. So first I'm going to walk you through steps, then we're going to demo this. So step one is the hardest, easiest. Load your training plan up in here. Then once you load your plan, you can click on the box, how to use this plan. There's a downloadable guide. Go ahead, download that guide and open it, and you'll find all kinds of helpful information. It's a PDF, so you can save it to your desktop, or it's always in your plan on how to use this plan. You could always download it. Um, there's really great information here. We updated it today based on some of the questions we've seen early, and I'm going to link that into this presentation. So if you come back and look at this recorded presentation, you'll be able to download the updated one. There's only one or two things about testing, which I'm going to talk about here. Once you've kind of loaded your plan, read the how-to, also visit the training support page in the Giddy Up website, which again, I'm going to demo this and show you why it's important. There's some new tips and things on there today. Once you've loaded the plan, you have your support document downloaded and you've read it, you've looked at the training support page and you've read it, all I want you to do is to go around in your plan and familiarize. Click on things, click on buttons like analyze, click on things like and save if you change anything. Feel free to click around, scroll up and down in the program and move around, just familiarize and don't get afraid. If you some reason delete your workouts for a week or something like that, the plan is in your account. You can just reapply it and fix it. It's very easy. We can send you instructions to do. It takes about 10 seconds. So you're not going to break anything. Just get in there and play around with it and feel comfortable walking through your plan. Then we need to talk about threshold testing. There were some questions about this, if you haven't done a test recently or you don't know how to do a test, how to do it. But I'm going to walk through that in a moment in the show section. So again, with that being said, let's go to a live demo, much easier to understand live. So here is a TrainingPeaks account. What you all have pretty much opened up, for yourself, whether you had an existing TrainingPeaks account or you have a new one, this is what your one sort of looks like now. This is just kind of a dummy blank account. So there's not like workouts in here or anything like that. Previous workouts, there's just the Giddy Up plan loaded. What you're going to see again, here you have different support mechanisms. Here's about your plan. Here's how to use your plan. Here's how you would download, right? Just click on that and it comes over here and download. If you just open it, it will open it as a PDF. So simple enough to do that. You can always look at all the tips and little tricks and stuff that we have in there. All our future webinars are listed in here and you can register from the webinar right in your training plan. This is tonight's, but if you scroll through, you'll see Science and Stoke number 2 and Science and Stoke number 3. Now, one of the things about TrainingPeaks that most of you now are probably figuring out if you're new to the account is TrainingPeaks will email you the next 2 days, tomorrow or today's, it's midnight, it depends exactly how you look at it, but the next 2 days of workouts every day. So that will show up in your email and you can execute that workout as you see fit. Whether you're doing on indoors or outdoors, it's all executable by you. These workouts are all designed in a structured format based off either your functional threshold power or your threshold heart rate. And I'm going to show you a quick little tip on those two here in a moment. To open a workout, all you have to do is click on the square. The tile is the terminology we use. So if I click on a tile, it brings me up this informational document. Here in blue, if I scroll over, I can see the structured workout. And this structured workout can be loaded directly to Garmin, your head unit. So if you want it executing on your head unit, and all you have to do is link your TrainingPeaks account to Garmin.com. If you Google search how to link Garmin to my TrainingPeaks account, you'll get the instructions as the #1 find, guaranteed. It'll teach you how to link the accounts, and this will automatically push it into your Garmin every day. So if today's Thursday, this workout will be loaded into your Garmin head unit. If you're still training indoors and do this with Zwift, same thing. All you need to do is connect your TrainingPeaks account to Zwift to learn how, just Google search connect TrainingPeaks to Zwift. You see the trend, the theme there, right? Just Google search it. We write all our Zendesk stuff at TrainingPeaks, so it's going to always show up as your #1 Google search, and it'll show you how to link the accounts. Then this will show up every day in Zwift as your workout of the day, and you can do it just in this structured format. Not everybody wants to do it in structured format. So if you hover over, you can see the numbers in structure, or you can actually scroll down here and see each step of the structured. Reality is the hover over is the easiest way to do it. Or if you just want to execute by memory, or you write it down and tape it to your top tube, there's a description with training targets and zones and everything in here. And then we also, all of these workouts are done in power. They're all power, but we give you a heart rate conversion, but I'm going to show you a shortcut. So watch what I'm about to do for you heart rate trainers, because I'll make your life much simpler. If you just click on this blue area, right, that'll launch the workout builder. So you notice now it's full screen, and suddenly I have more controls over here. You see this box right here that says units? Right now it's set percentage of threshold heart rate. Oops, I already converted this one. What will happen actually when you click on it, it's going to say percentage of functional threshold power. All you need to do is go to units, click the down, and change it to heart rate, percentage of threshold heart rate, and it'll switch your workout into heart rate targets. So that's really, I build it in power because everybody who's training indoors nowadays has power. A lot of people are mixing indoor and outdoor training. So power is the more utilized method, but that's a really simple conversion. Once you've converted it to heart rate, just save and close. It'll connect to your Garmin. All the same things will work. Very easy process of how to flip those workouts. Now, you might want all of them in heart rate, so you're going to have to go and do them one at a time, and I apologize about that. But the reality is it gives you the accurate and best answer, and it gives everybody the flexibility to use power and heart rate as they see fit. Now, whether you're using power, these workout zones are all based on either your functional threshold power, which is your lactate threshold, or your heart rate threshold. You can see your training zones over here. See on the left, when you just have this open, by clicking on the little heart, there's the heart rate training zones. And if I click on the little lightning bolt, there's the power training zones. Now, these are all based on a common testing format. To understand your threshold, you need a common testing format. I learned yesterday and today, some of the training, some of the workouts did not have this testing option in it. You don't see this Tuesday. I want to save that. You don't see this Tuesday FTP testing day in your workout. I'm going to tell you what it is right now, but if you don't have it and you need the protocol, email us at info@joinbasecamp.com and we'll send you a little one-pager on how to execute this test, and I apologize about that. So basically all I want you to do on test day, notice right off the bat, the test day is not structured. There's no structure to test day. That's because it's a test, and a test is, you're basically going to do a really good warm-up, a couple of 90-second openers with 3 to 5 minutes in between, then ride a little bit, and then the test is I want you to go as hard as you can for 20 minutes. Don't start too hard, but go as hard as you can for 20 minutes. And whether you're measuring that with a power meter, we want the average power of that 20 minutes, or if you're measuring that with a heart rate, we want the average heart rate of the last 15 minutes. Don't use the first 5 minutes because your heart takes a little time to get up and running. Heart rate is a trailing indicator. So if you're using power, we're going to measure the 20 minutes of that, or the average power of that 20 minutes. And if we're using heart rate, we're going to use the average of the heart rate, the average beats per minute of the last 15 minutes of those efforts. Then once you have those numbers, you need to go in and set your training zones. A very simple process. Click this little setting here. Go to zones. I know I'm going kind of fast, but I still got one more trick here. I'll show you guys if you forget what I'm showing you. And all you need to do is enter in, if you're using heart rate, let's say the last 15 minutes of your 20-minute effort was 158. Enter that into your threshold heart rate, estimate your max, We're not going to use max for the goal setting you have. So you could use 220 minus your age, even though that's only accurate about 40% of the time. It doesn't really matter, right? But if you know your max, great. And if you know you're resting, great. But we're going to use that threshold. Then in calculation, lactate threshold, we're always going to use the Andy Coggin sessions and just calculate, apply, and save. Now I know I went really fast. I'm going to show you a cheat here in a moment. Now, if you want to set your power zone, same system, go to zones, scroll down to power. For power, we're going to use 95% of that average 20-minute power. So let's say for 20 minutes, you held 200 watts. 95% of that is 190. So I'm going to enter 190 in my watts. I'm going to make sure we're set to threshold power here. And the method we're going to use is Andy Coggin 6, calculate, save, and close. If you enter both your heart rate threshold and your power threshold, then you simply can flip-flop your workouts between heart rate and threshold as you see fit. So that's how you set your threshold. All of these structured workouts then will automatically adjust to the target, and the targeting data will be right there in the blue. So if I'm doing this workout and this workout says endurance, this is progressive endurance, so it gets a little harder in blocks. This section is 25 minutes, 85 to 90 RPM at 114 to 133 watts. Pretty clear system. And again, don't be afraid to look, test, click around on things. Now, as a final tidbit, right, and something I want everybody to follow is there is a training support page. Here I'm on the Giddy Up Challenge website. I go to training, I go to training plan support, and there's a little intro here, but under the latest, we will be putting blog posts. Right now I have them as videos because I was just catching up to people, but a little bit of information and we'll show you. Look at these two here, testing your threshold. So if you're not sure of how to test your threshold because I went too fast, go watch this video. It's only about 5 minutes long. All you have to do is click on it and it'll play. And that's at the Giddy Up training support page. And then if you, how do I enter my threshold, which I'll teach you here, but then converting power to heart rate, the same little trick I just showed you, I actually made a little video of that so you could remember how to do that. So hopefully that will, help walk you through your TrainingPeaks setup. Now, here's the main thing. A couple of quick questions I'm going to tackle actually first. Here's a good one, Katie, good question. Do we have a TrainingPeaks account if we registered for the Giddy Up, or is this separate? If you registered for this Giddy Up and you bought the training plan that went with it, I think there was a combined package for 79 bucks or something like that. It's all pretty affordable because it's all of the money goes to charity. All the proceeds go to charity. There's some cost to doing it, but all the proceeds go to charity. Once you actually go in, you should have got a discount code for 100% discount on the training plan if you follow the instructions. Go ahead, when you download your plan, it will give you a free basic TrainingPeaks account. The TrainingPeaks accounts are free. Now you can upgrade to premium, but you do not need to do that for this plan. The free basic account will give you everything you need. There's no cost in it. So as soon as you download the plan, it basically knows when you enter your information if you already have a TrainingPeaks account or not. And if you don't have one, it will give you a brand new one, free basic account. You don't put in a credit card. You don't have to do anything like that. Just get a free basic account. Now, when it comes to the workouts, let's say you don't have a power meter, but you have a power meter indoors and you're using heart rate outside. Do I do bulk of workouts indoor to hit power or heart rate data outside? That's a great question. I would probably, if I was stuck with, if I had that, as a challenge, if the weather was great, let's get outside. Because remember, one of my elements, B, who asked this question, one of my things, my specific adaptations was environment. So we're better off getting training on the bike and getting the environment utilizing or getting used to the environment we're going to perform in, which is outdoor on real worlds. Now, if you're going to do yours indoors, then I would be on the trainer. That's what I mean by specific adaptation to impose demand. If you're going to do yours outside, do it outside. If you're going to do yours on your gravel bike, train on your gravel bike. If you're going to do yours, if you're going to do yours on a mountain bike, train on a mountain bike. Not all the time. You don't have to do it all the time, be that boring, but make sure that's a big part of your training. If you don't have that workout day 2, if it doesn't have it, if it's blank in there, just email us at info. You can see here it's missing. There was a set of plans. For some reason, it didn't get copied into. If you don't have the Tuesday test protocol, email us at info@joinbasecamp.com and we'll send you the protocol in the morning. Okay, I think I answered all the specific questions to that training principle demo. So, quick little demo, walked you through. Again, my main advice, look around, familiarize yourself with things, stuff like that. Now, another great question was asked, and here's part of why. If you were in our winter base camp program, which so many of you were, I would not do another FTP test. If you already know your threshold and you already know your heart rate threshold, I wouldn't do the test. I built a test in, we have a formalized test in the middle here of the 8-week program. But if you've already tested, if you already know your threshold, I wouldn't bother testing again. Just jump right into the training and get going. If you've just come out of the Giddy Up, you probably have a pretty good, if you've just come out of our winter base camp training program, you probably already have a pretty good idea of your threshold. So just go ahead and use that and we'll test again in 4 weeks in the middle. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's go back to my handy dandy presentation. I want to try to open it up to all questions here. Don't forget to use the training support page I just showed you. There's going to be, as questions come up and things come there, there'll always be 2 to 4 things in the latest. So I'm just going to try to keep up with questions that we see, like frequently asked questions, and we'll probably post maybe 1 thing a week there, just little updates and stuff like that. Maybe more if there's a lot of questions, but let's see how everything goes. So just make sure you're checking on that training support page and finding those little videos like I put in there for you yesterday. Okay, that gets us pretty close to wrap up. So I'm going to go over a couple of slides of just information, then I'm going to open it to open Q&A. I'll take as much time as you need to answer your questions. I just wanted to make sure I got the basic fundamentals. Hopefully at this stage, people are like, oh, you've seen the Everest in calculator. That's a pretty cool thing, isn't it, right? Go in there and get playing around. I remember I built 12 of them last year. I was doing every climb in the area and I had sliders moving everywhere. Get in there and start playing around, build your 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, and start narrowing it down. We've done a good demo of TrainingPeaks. Hopefully you're comfortable enough getting that open and loaded and familiarizing and looking around and finding the things you need. Again, if you don't have the test tomorrow, and you can do the test Thursday or Wednesday, it doesn't really matter. But if you don't have that test protocol, email us at info@joinbasecamp.com and we'll send it to you. I think that catches us up. Now, what comes next? We have our next Science and Stoke webinar on Monday, May 3rd. That's the halfway. Rebecca's going to be really doing a lot of load there. I'm going to give you some updates and training, talk about how we're kind of preparing our body physiologically speaking. And in reality, that will be the main focus there. But we're going to pretty much go from there. So Rebecca wanted to send a little bit of a send off before we do Q&A because she got to see something pretty cool. I should be pushing play, I think. So this is what she flew into in Iceland, and she texted the whole team about this is the fireworks that are kicking off the Giddy Up Challenge, right? So, really pretty cool. Go to Iceland for a crazy cross Iceland trek, and all same time, get to be a live volcano. That's pretty cool. So I'll share this with you guys. We'll have to post it up for this actual presentation, so you'll get it tomorrow. But pretty cool setup. Okay. Now what I want to do is open it up to Q&A. I didn't answer every question. I parking lotted a couple because they might have been longer questions. So if anybody now is either asleep or can no longer stay awake, you can drop off. But if you want to hear the questions and answers, please feel free to stay on, and I will try to be funny and witty to keep you awake. So let's start out with Gary's question. Gary asks, I'm guessing this training program is more like race specificity plan. With that assumption, what is our FTP and fitness growth going to be like versus the growth experience in a base and build plan like winter base camp? So Gary, yeah, as a matter of fact, this is a very specific training plan, and it really is meant to build that intensive aerobic power. We miss the idea, like everything is about muscular endurance, fatigue resistance, and the ability to just go at extended tempo. So in reality, what that is really important for you to do is get a fair amount of that in training, right? So it is a very specific, but it might not be as intensive hard as a race train. It really is unique. And you use the right word, specificity, but that tempo is going to be the specificity. A lot of sweet spot, a lot of tempo. We need to get that intensive. Your lactic system, the way you make energy in that area, we need to get that really working well for success. So it's very specific to that. Anonymous asks, what flexibility do we have in our plan? For example, I'd like to swap Wednesday for Tuesday workouts and Sunday for Saturday. That's fine. I put them in the best order, but it is a general training plan, right? And it isn't going to necessarily match up with everybody's life well. Know that there's an order to it, and the order is the most effective way. But it's kind of funny if you look at it. I like patterns in simple training. I mean, I like the correct patterns in training. I call it training rhythm modalities. And in reality, if you look at it, you could probably see what I'm doing. Just try to follow that pattern. But at the end of the day, the key thing to changing workouts, I can tell you, right? Stay consistent. Even if you do the wrong workout on the wrong day, do a workout. Meaning the most important thing, if you're trying to train 5 to 6 days a week and your schedule's challenging you at times, don't skip. Try to keep training, even if you have to reduce time. You're so much better off being consistent in your work. So that should be your overall guidance. Sometimes when people start switching workouts, they're like, I can just drop this one off and I'll just drop that one. And suddenly before they realize, before they know it, they're only doing 3 workouts a week. So be consistent, but moving them around is okay. Andrea, I'm looking at the plan in TP. I see that longer rides are typically scheduled on Friday. I saw this question came in. Andrea, make sure you started your plan on the right date, Monday, April 5th. I have a feeling maybe you missed by a day because Saturday should be your hardest day. So you can unapply the plan and reapply it. If you're not sure, just email me, and I know you know how to get in touch with us. So, and I can tell you how to unapply it and reapply it. It's a 10-second fix, but Saturday, Sunday should be your longer days, not Friday. So just check that start date. Should be Monday, April 5th. Jim, I did answer your question. So Anonymous asks, I've been sick for the past week, did not cycle or train for 8 days, feeling better now, but I'm still a bit tired. How would you recommend I start the training to ensure I'm healthy in the whole way through it? Well, first of all, if you're sick right now, just make sure that you're appropriately tested and healthy. For those who have had or are going through COVID, unfortunately, most of us know that that has a pretty big cardiovascular and lung effect, heart and lung effect. You need to be super careful before you return to training. My overarching advice is see a doctor and make sure you're healthy enough to return to training. And you should not return to training until you're unsympathetic, do you have no symptoms for at least 5 to 7 days. I would then come back and just ride 3 to 5 days of endurance. And if you're still feeling good, jump into the training plan. Number one bit of advice, make sure a doctor says you're clear to ride your bike. Amanda, are you going to practice on the top climbs you've picked out? For example, do 10,000 feet Yeah, I understand the question. It's a great one. And that's exactly why I pick my top three, 2 to 3 climbs, because I'm doing all my climbing workout on those climbs. The more time you do the climb, right, the better you are. Here's what happens when you Everest. Imagine me going up this climb. It took, what was my climb time was 19 minutes each time up. And you're on your 22nd one. You're fatigued. Your brain isn't working great, right? You're just struggling with stuff. That familiarity really helps you put everything into autopilot, which is so important in that mode. So I want to do as much of my training. I'll time my tempo rides to end on my Everest climb. So if I'm doing an hour of tempo and that climb takes me 20 minutes of tempo, I'll do 40 minutes in the valley and then kind of time it out. So I hit the climb at 40 minutes and then do the climb. If I'm doing climbing repeats, I'm doing them on that climb. Remember, the thing we want to adapt to is our environment. And that's not just weather. That's not just temperature, right? That's the terrain, the road surface, the whatever. Get on your climb. That's why I want everybody planning their challenge now. Make it easy, or at least narrowing it down so you can do some of that work. Kim asked, towards the end of base camp, we were changing some of our own workouts. So if I change a workout in TrainingPeaks and it changes the expected TSS, how do you recommend we keep track of that change so we don't go too far off the planned numbers? For example, my planned TSS for the week is 500. So Kim, I understand the question. Copy the workout first and then paste it right in the same day and adjust the new one. Now you have to do a little bit of math, but once you get it right, you can delete the new or the old one and the week will be right. But that's the best way to do it. There is no kind of memory function. There is one in WKO, but there is not one in TrainingPeaks. Okay, good question. Michelle asked, what does MS1 and MS2 stand for? There is a glossary of terms. I will link it into this blog when I post this recorded version in the blog tomorrow. I will also link the glossary of terms just to make sure everybody's comfortable with that. MS1 is main set 1 and MS2 is main set 2. And if you had a 3 and a 4 and a 5, that just means the main sets of the workout, the core of the workout. So when you see WU, that is warm up. When you see MS, that is main set. When you see CD, that is cool down. Hi, Kathy. Let's see what your question is. I know you mentioned the best grade is 5 to 8%, and I know the world record was just set on a half mile at 14.2% average grade. What if the closest climb to me near home is 1/8 mile long and 13%? I think I'd have to go up like 280 times, right? Yeah, that's probably too steep and too short. What happens when you're that steep, if you're not highly developed and trained for that performance, the fatigue ratio is higher. You'll need less time, right? Overall time, because you cover less miles as you get steeper, but it's more muscular demanding. So what happens when you start going above 8%, you put more strain on the muscle and less on the cardiovascular system. You want a good balanced climb, something that has an appropriate metabolic cost. And that metabolic cost, when I say you're aerobic and stuff like that, that's what I'm talking about, while it has the same neuromuscular or muscular demand, you need a good balance to hit it right. I would not do, when you start getting over 10% in your steepness, you really need to make sure. Now, you may be an amazing climber and stuff like that. And if you are, then yeah, go for it, because that's what it takes to have incredibly good times. But that's probably too steep. I might search for something else. I really like that 5 to 8% for most of us. If you're really fit, maybe 7 to 9. But once you start getting above that, it gets pretty difficult on the, a pro rider has a lot more muscular stamina than the average rider because they're training way more. So that would be the difference there. Their cardiovascular systems might be closer than you think, but muscular wise, big difference. Okay, Katie asks, where does weight training fall into the program? I work with a trainer 3 times a week for 30 minutes. Katie, hard to say. That's more of a kind of a direct coaching question. And without knowing you, it would be a guess. And I hate guessing because the answer is it depends. How many years you've been training, what is your normal training load? You might want to ask the trainer that's working directly with you. They'll probably have the best answer. Sorry, I don't want to give you bad advice. Any advice on whether we should skip training days after vaccine? Yes and yes. Yes, I have some good advice. Yes. In your first vaccine, skip the next day. And in the second vaccine, assuming you have two, or the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, I would probably skip 2 to 3 days. It's definitely something you just want that to work through your body. You don't remember when you do a workout, the system that you do damage to your body in that workout, the system that repairs and then adapts and makes you faster is your immune system. So if your immune system's busy dealing with that vaccine, you're not going to get any faster anyway. So don't introduce the fatigue. Your overall health always tops all. If the whole system is healthy, you'll train and do better. Okay, I'm down to my last 3 questions and we're going to wrap it up here. The climb I've chosen is too short to do repeats without descending. Should I still try to complete workouts in this climb? Yeah, I mean, if that works for you, try to, I know what you're saying, right? And that's where maybe you could do it in a way like that's my same problem on one of my climbs. So I ride the valley, like I just do what I have to do to get X amount of minutes in before I hit the climb, and then I finish the interval on the climb B. That's the best answer. And if not, and let's say you're only like 30 seconds short or 45, and that's fine too. But really being on the climb really is something super smart. I'm sure everybody can see why, right? If you're just thoroughly familiar with that climb, you're just going to be ready to deal with everything. And your body's adapted to it. It knows every little turn, every little surge, every little thing, right? You're totally ready to roll. All right, here's actually the last question. After a lap up our hill, we will be coasting back down likely, and then maybe taking a break every few laps or so. How do we deal with lactic acid buildup if we can't shuttle the acid on the way down? So Gary, that's a pretty good physiology question because it's really not, you're not building lactic acid. You might have lactate and that's having effect on you. Not might, you will have lactate and not might affect you. It will have an effect on you. How you deal with that is, first of all, you have to train, and the training is actually, and that's why you see longer intervals with that type of time off in between. You need to manage that lactate better. Some of it you need to learn to teach your body to turn to fuel. Lactate is actually gets re-synthesized by your liver into fuel, into glucose. So some of it goes there, but then you also need to teach your body to buffer lactate. So particularly in the last 4 weeks of this plan, we're going to be working on that buffering side. And you shuttle lactate. So you're right. You need to build proteins that will shuttle it and help you better manage it. So all of those things, really the answer is training. Now, when we get into nutrition, I'm going to teach you a trick or two about nutrition that'll better prepare you to, you're not really dealing with lactic acid. What you're dealing is your muscular acidity. So I'm going to teach you a couple of tricks on maybe how to regulate that a little bit through, you're going to try to regulate it through your training. And that's what this 8-week program is going to help you do. But we're going to try to regulate that a little bit with nutrition too. So Namrita is going to give us a little help in the next webinar, and her and I together cooked up a little something for you. Awesome. Awesome. So I think I've gotten through all of the questions. Please feel free, to just click around, experiment. Again, I can't encourage you enough to do that. If there's something you can't figure out, we're here to help you at info@joinbasecamp.com. Now, in the closing thought, the main thing you can do is right here in the slide, start visiting the training support page, get comfortable looking there. So what I'm going to do tomorrow, just like this, like if you look at how to load your Giddy Up plan, Katie, I think you were asking about it. If you click here, right, this will take you to a full blog post about how to do it with a video on how to load your plan in there. So tomorrow I'll do a new blog post with a little summary information from this webinar. It will include the recorded version of this webinar. I'm going to link the testing instruction package in here, and I'm going to link the glossary of terms. That, since I hear your questions, right, and I'm like, oh, they do need that, or that's something I forgot to put in there, or however you want to look at it. I'll use this training support page to post a blog like once a week with helpful information, videos, and things like that. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to put these two videos into one blog. I just wanted to leave them up top so everybody can see them here today. So these little latest blog posts. I also want to remind you that there's all kinds of help support from last year's programs and other, like, some nutrition stuff, different things about the fundraising. And you could just scroll through. You're looking for some great stuff from Rebecca on her motivation, inspiration. You want training and nutrition tips. There's all kinds of information there that you can spend some time. So Gary, you asked about indoor. There you go. Scroll around the page. This is really, you guys, it's not, for those of you who've been in base camp where we do a full immersion program. This isn't that full immersion program. This is a training support program. You have a nice training plan. We want to get you there. We're here to answer questions. But the information for you to help yourself is located in two places. This training support plan and Google. Trust me, if you have any TrainingPeaks questions, any Everesting questions, any how to link my TrainingPeaks to Garmin, just Google it and it will always be the top answer. You'd be surprised at how much our systems now build to work in Google. So the answer will be there. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. I really hope that was helpful for you. Can't wait for Rebecca to be back. Let's give her a big cheer over there in Iceland, but we'll see her for Science and Stoke #2. Good night now.